The train was already late when I boarded. That alone should have been my excuse to leave. Late trains mean impatient conductors, overcrowded cars, people pressed way too close and pretending not to notice. But it was after midnight, the last northbound line, and if I missed it, I'd be stuck at the station until morning. So I stepped inside. The doors closed behind me with a sound that felt heavier, more final than usual. The car wasn't full. Maybe a dozen people were scattered across the seats, all facing forward, all completely quiet. No phones were glowing in the dark. No headphones. No one was talking. That should have been the second sign. I took a seat near the middle of the car and looked up at the route map above the doors. 11 stops. Mine was the 9th, a small suburban platform near the edge of the city, barely used at night. The train lurched forward. For a few minutes, everything felt normal enough. The familiar hum of the tracks, the gentle sway of the car, the faint vibration under my feet. Then the man sitting across the aisle leaned forward slightly. Without even looking at me, he said, "You're getting off at Brookline Station." It wasn't a question. It was a statement. I looked up. He was middle-aged, neatly dressed, with his hands folded calmly in his lap. His eyes stayed fixed on the floor. "Sorry," I said, confused. He didn't respond. I waited, expecting him to look up, to explain, maybe to laugh it off as a weird joke. But instead, the woman sitting right beside him just nodded once, as if she was confirming something to herself. I tried to rationalize it. It had to be a coincidence. People guess things. Maybe he'd seen me checking the map and counting the stops. Maybe he lived near my stop and recognized the look of someone heading home. The train passed the first stop. The doors opened and closed, but no one got on. No one got off. At the second stop, the doors opened again to a completely empty platform. A cold wind blew in, sending trash skittering across the concrete. Still, not a single person in the car moved. By the third stop, I noticed something else that was off. No one had bags. No backpacks, no purses, not even a coat slung over an arm. Everyone looked prepared, like they had left home knowing exactly how long they'd be gone, with nothing extra. The overhead speaker crackled to life. Next stop, the conductor's voice said, eerily calm and flat, is North Gate. The man across from me smiled. Not at me, just smiled. A small, private, unsettling smile. I couldn't take it anymore. I stood up. The movement drew every single pair of eyes in the car toward me. Not sharply, not dramatically. They just shifted all at once like a flock of birds turning midair. "I think this is my stop," I said, gesturing vaguely toward the doors, even though it wasn't. The woman beside the man gently shook her head. "No," she said, her voice surprisingly kind. "Not yet." Her tone was almost reassuring, which somehow made it even more terrifying. I sat back down. I don't know why. It was just a reflex, maybe. Social pressure. The same weird instinct that keeps you seated when everyone else stays seated, even when every fiber of your being is screaming that something is wrong. North Gate passed. Then the fourth stop, the fifth. The train never slowed down between them. There were no more announcements, no change in speed. Just the same steady, relentless motion, as if the stations were just suggestions, not actual places to stop. By the sixth stop, I felt physically sick. I pulled out my phone, desperate for a connection to the real world. No signal, not even a single dead bar. I looked at the time. It hadn't changed in 20 minutes. Frozen. I looked back up at the route map. The 9th stop, Brookline, was lit up. All the others were dark. "You don't have to be nervous," the man across from me said, his voice low. "Everyone feels like that their first time." My mouth went completely dry. I could barely get the words out. First time doing what? He finally looked up from the floor, his eyes meeting mine for the first time. "Getting off," he said. Just then, the train lights flickered violently. For a brief second, I saw the car differently, not as this clean, modern space. It was worn, scratched. The floor was scuffed with strange marks that looked like shoes being dragged sideways. I saw what looked like fingernail grooves gouged into the plastic along the window frames. Then, just as quickly, the lights steadied and the car was normal again. No one else seemed to have noticed the flicker. The seventh stop passed without a sound. I stood up again, this time forcing myself to move toward the doors. My legs felt heavy, like I was walking through deep water. As I got closer, a young guy who had been sitting near the doors stepped directly into my path. He was smiling, too. "Don't block the aisle," he said, his voice light. "We all need it clear. I'm getting off early," I said, my voice shaking. "I don't feel well." "That's normal," he replied, his smile not wavering. "It doesn't mean you're done." Behind him, the doors remained sealed shut. The train didn't slow. I turned back, my heart hammering against my ribs, and I caught my reflection in the dark window. But for a horrifying split second, the reflection wasn't just me. There were shapes behind me, standing too close, their faces overlapping with mine. I spun around, my breath catching in my throat. There was nothing. Just the empty seats and the other quiet passengers. Eighth stop. The lights in the car dimmed slightly, as if the train was preparing for something intimate. The overhead speaker crackled again. "Next stop," the conductor said, his voice seeming to echo in the silent car, "is Brookline." Every single head turned toward me. Not aggressively, not eagerly, just expectantly. As if this was the moment they had all been waiting for. "You'll do fine," the woman said softly. "Just follow the others, the others." I whispered. The man across from me stood up. Then another passenger stood, and another. One by one, they all rose from their seats, forming a loose, orderly line that led to the doors. There was no pushing, no urgency. Just an unnerving patience. The train finally began to slow. Outside the windows, the black tunnel walls gave way to open night. I could see trees and a narrow platform lit by a single flickering lamp. Brookline Station. I'd been there dozens of times before, but it had never looked like this. The platform was longer, emptier. The darkness beyond the lamplight felt deeper, thicker, like a physical fog made of pure black. The doors slid open. Cold air rushed in, carrying the smell of wet concrete and something sharp, something metallic. No one stepped off. They all just waited. "For you," the man from across the aisle said, gesturing politely toward the open doors. My instincts were screaming at me to run, to fight, to do anything, but there was nowhere to run except forward, onto that platform. I took a step. My foot hit the concrete. I was on the platform. The others followed me out, one by one. As soon as the last person was off, the doors closed behind us. The train pulled away immediately, its lights vanishing into the tunnel as if it had never been there at all. The station was completely silent. There was no signage, no exit map, no stairs. Just the platform and a single dirt path that led away into the dark trees where the parking lot should have been. The man from the train stood beside me. "You can go," he said quietly. "We'll stay? Go where?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He pointed down the dark path. "That," he said, "depends on how well you listen." Behind me, the other passengers stood in a neat, silent line, watching me, waiting. I started down the path. I don't know what else I could have done. After a few steps, I risked a look back. The platform was empty. No people, no train. Just a single sign bolted to the station wall, rusted and old. It read, "Brookline Temporary Stop. I've never found Brookline Station again." The train still runs that route. The map on the wall still shows it as the 9th stop. But now, whenever I have to take it, people look at me a little too closely. And sometimes, if the car is quiet enough, someone will lean over and say, "You already know where you're getting off. Thanks for listening." If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.